Welcome to Gouldfish on Games and Budget Game Reviews, and today's cheap review is on Taz-Mania for the Sega Master System, which runs on the Sega Master System, Master System 2, MegaDrive and Genesis using the base converter, and based on that, as well as the artwork, this must have been a late release. The box states it has 6 rounds and is a one-player game and supports the control pad as well as the control stick, and the screenshots show off some of the basics of the game. So let's open it up, and we have the standard Master System cart, nothing special here, and on the other side we have the manual, which is in the Master System typical blue and white styling, which has all the usual stuff on how to insert the game into the console, as well as the basic controls and what you can expect to find in the various levels. And if you look closely, you can actually see the manual contradict what's on the back of the box. But we'll talk about that more when we get to it, so let's just boot the game up, shall we? And obviously, what is this game going to open up with? Well, a wall of text that explains the story. Yep, there is a story here, which is basically setting Taz out on an adventure to find the giant egg, so he can have a huge breakfast. And each stage will even lay out more of this plot as you go along. So what can we expect of the gameplay? Well, it's pretty much a basic platformer. Your basic attack is your spin, and it will last only as long as that P bar. Yep. And it's actually pretty strong, as it'll take out any bad guy and power up in the game. That's right, you can actually destroy the power-ups as well. But you can also use it to take down the power down, the bomb, or you can accidentally eat it and lose some of your health. Though thankfully there are plenty of 1-ups as well as health in the form of chickens that you can find in the levels. There's also the star, which will make you invincible for a short amount of time. Apart from the bombs will still hurt you, as will the bottomless pits. There are a lot of bottomless pits. Being a bit of an uninspiring platformer, the goal is to go from left to right and complete the level. At which point you'll be treated to the score system, which is only based on the time it took you to complete the level and how much health you had at the end. None of your other in-game actions are taken into account at all. Each stage is made out of 2 levels, and then a boss fight, which tend to be pretty easy because your basic attack does a lot of damage and they can only hurt you if you're still. So let's check out all the other stages, shall we? Now you might be mistaken in thinking this is actually stage 1, but muscle flexing Taz says no, this is stage 2. You can tell because the trees are different. It also has unique music and quicksand, so yep, that must be a completely different world. But it does play pretty much like the last one. Lots of springs, jumps, and lots of pits that you can fall down. Its second level does at least open up with some interesting trees. And ooh, who remembers this character from the series? Thankfully, by the third stage, they are starting to mix things up, and we actually have an underground cavern with a completely different tile set and even some brand new baddies. Doesn't it all look quite fancy and very checkerboard? We also get to see the breakable blocks. And I guess now is as good a time as any to talk about how Taz controls. It has 2 main speeds, walking and fast walking, and there's no gradual ramp to this. It's a case of if you've been walking for more than a few seconds, you'll instantly jump to the faster speed. But everything changes as soon as you use your spin attack, as your speed and your momentum completely changes, which is great for reaching those further away platforms, but is also pretty good at landing you straight in a pit that you couldn't see. This stage also shakes up the level design by having invisible walls with secrets behind them, and being more maze-like than what we've seen previously. And amazingly, it even has a bit of a cutscene for the boss fight, even though that is probably the most interesting bit in the fight itself. And before you know it, we're already onto the ruins, which has a bit of music which doesn't really seem to fit the level at all. It really sounds like it should be from a faster, far more energetic game than what this actually is. Though thankfully it's not the worst bit of music in the game, and is significantly better than the absolutely terrible Game Gear soundtrack, which sounds like they threw the Game Gear as well as the musicians down a flight of stairs and recorded it. The level design is still in that maze-like design from the last stage, but they are using far more of the breakable blocks, as well as spike traps rather than bottomless pits, which is nice. But don't worry, those will make a comeback very shortly. The enemies also got a bit of a shake-up, as we now have mummies as well as ghosts, but none of them are a match for Taz's spin attack. The boss is at least reasonably interesting, as you actually have 2 targets. But to be honest, it's still not that much difficult than any of the previous ones. It might take more spin attacks to take them down than previously. There's no real AI behind any of this. It is a very simple pattern for you to remember. And after about 25 minutes of playing, we're on to the Lost Valley. Wait, isn't that the last stage? Well, it actually is. It turns out there is only 5 stages in the game, and the back of the box lied to us. Naughty Sega, naughty. But to be honest, when you play this level, you realise that they were probably running out of steam, as the music is barely a few seconds long. And the level design has returned to Bottomless Pits and Leaps of Faith, which are a great combination to have in your game. And amazingly, Taz actually has a duck move, which is entirely useless, as it won't move the camera down, and there really isn't all that much you have to duck underneath. So why they added it, I have absolutely no idea. Thankfully, health isn't something you really have to worry about outside of the bosses, as the chicken dinners are pretty plentiful, and the damage that the bad guys do is pretty minimal. Quite often, it's actually better just to tank some damage than it is to spin and possibly send yourself flying, as the change of momentum is far more likely to kill you than any of the baddies. And between guesswork and seeing baddies jump around, you can pretty much make your way through this level pretty easily, as it's not the most difficult in the game, even though it will try and trick you. And lo and behold, we're on to the final boss fight, and again, it's relatively straightforward, just gotta hit the bird multiple times, and that's it. And what do we get for all our troubles? Well, we get the egg, and a baby Metroid, a baby bird that thinks we're its mother. And that's it, game over. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at Taz-Mania for the Master System, which is a unique enough game from the MegaDrive to be worth a play. The Game Gear also got completely different levels from the other 2, so that might be worth it if you can stomach the terrible music. And until next time, I was the Gouldfish, that was Budget Game Reviews Taz-Mania, and this was Gouldfish on Games. Thank you for watching this budget game review. I do hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got memories of this game, good or bad, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. And if you really enjoyed the video, then there's buttons below that you know what to do with. Or if you're not sure yet, then there's 2 other videos on screen that you can check out right now.